today I want to show you how to trim a plate. Now this plate was thrown and it is leather hard, and you can see it has a thicker untrimmed bottom. So what I want to do is I want to put a foot ring on this, and the foot ring will always go right underneath this part where it transitions from bottom into side. Where that transition occurs, that's where you always put your corresponding foot. Now on this one, I'm not going to take off that much on the outside. That'll be about where the outside of my foot is. Now, there are different ways that we can trim, but for my students, I'm going to be showing you on the Giffin Grip. The Giffin Grip is a tool that will hold your piece onto your wheel. Now, one of the first things that you need to do is you snap it on. Now, my students, you have to make sure that you have the correct one. Some of them are labeled Pacifica and some are labeled Brent, because the wheel heads are just about 1/4 of an inch different. Now, after I have it snapped on, I am going to take and I hold my finger right next to the edge and I see, does it look level? And if you look right here, you can see it's bobbing up on one side. It's not level. That must mean that it's stuck slightly on the bat pin. So I'm going to pick up the whole thing, the bottom included, lift it up, try it again. And you might have to do this a few times until you get it so it doesn't wobble on you. And this one, I got it on this second try. Okay, so now what I'm going to do with the Giffin Grip is I'm going to unscrew it by turning it counterclockwise. I'm going to set that on there. You always must make sure that the little sliders are evenly spaced. Now, if your sliders were taken off at some point, your sliders aren't on there, what you have to do is you have to make sure that you have it lined up with the large hole. Now, if I turn this a little bit, you can see there's another opening here, but that is not the large hole. You need this one because that's the deep one that the slider will go into. Now, I'm using the slider that has the foam on the inside edge because that foam is going to go right up against my pot. My students, you will also find that we have some newer one, but it works the same. They just are blue. Now, what I'm going to do is I hold the bottom part where the wheel head is, and I will turn the top, and I will turn it clockwise to tighten it, counterclockwise to loosen it. And FYI, these only work in a right-handed rotation. Lefties can't use this with a left-handed rotation or the thing comes unscrewed as you use it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start my wheel. Now, what I'm going to start off by doing is I'm going to start off by just making a mark where I think the outside of the foot should be. And I already kind of made the mark with my fingernail. So if I indicate that, that will be the outside of my foot. That will be the inside of my foot. Now, most of my forms have a very narrow foot that's the same thickness as the wall of the pot, but this one is going to be wider because it's a wide form and I want it to be stable. So what I do is I go straight down from the top to start off by making that outside edge. Now, a couple of tricks. You have to make sure your hands are stable and locked together, and also make sure your elbows are stable. Either lock them to your side or lock them to your legs. Okay? Now, notice that all I'm doing thus far is I'm going straight down from the bottom. I never come in from the side. You go straight down from the bottom. And you do want to make sure that your form is leather hard. If it's too sticky or too dry, it doesn't trim well. Now, once I've established the outside of the foot, then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just tidy up this kind of corner to get rid of that. Now, thus far, I'm just using the square end of my trim tool, but you can certainly turn it over if you like the round end. Okay, now I'm going to take this sharp corner and I'm going to round it nicely because I'd rather have nice rounded transition coming down to the foot there. There we go. Now let's work on the interior of the foot. Okay, I had some chunks right on there that I got off. What I typically never do is I usually never trim the actual bottom of the foot. If you have cut it evenly with your wire, there's no reason to trim that. I mean, sometimes if you just feel like you have a chunk on there, you might just set it on there gently, but that's not really to take anything down. Now, to get the inside of the foot, I use the corner of the trim tool and I go straight down. Now, this thickness of the bottom was about, I would say 3/8 of an inch thick. So I want to take off at least 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to just take this tool going straight across here. Now, you know that the form is leather hard when you can start taking it off in big ribbons like that. Okay, and you can go from the outside to the inside or the inside to the outside, it doesn't matter. Just remember though, when you establish the foot, you go down from the top. Okay, now that I've taken off some of that thickness, now I'm going to come in here and tidy this. I'm just going to even this out. Now you want to be sensitive to knowing how thick your bottom is. If you are concerned that you didn't make it thick enough, you might want to stop every once in a while and kind of do a test. By tapping it, you can sometimes hear a pitch difference. And then the last thing that I'm going to do, and I'll just show you this as an option if you want to. You could put a spiral in there that's purposeful, so if I take the corner of the tool, I can put a purposeful spiral in there. Purely decorative, nothing functional about that. And actually, this will be the last thing that I'm going to do. One of the final steps is you always want to just make sure it's as tidy as you can get it, so I'm going to take a little rib, and I rib over it, because if you have some exposed grog, it will end up by creating some rough spots. And there you go. And that's how you trim a plate. Oh, and to take it off the wheel, stop, hold the bottom, rotate it counterclockwise, and then carefully lift it up. If it is flexing at all, you know that it's a little too wet to have trimmed, but mine is nice and stiff. The rim is stiff and it's leather hard. Trimmed. And that's it.